Good evening, SportsZonians. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Mike Aglioloro. I am your host. This is Sports Zone, coming to you live like we do each and every week here via the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Radio Network. We got a good show for you tonight. Going to be joined by Dave Hastings in a matter of moments. Does not look like we're going to have Erich here tonight, but hopefully he's able to join us. And we do have a lot to get to here tonight. Obviously, we got all the goings on from week 3 in the NFL. We're going to talk about that. We got some basketball to talk to. Might get a little baseball. Might get to a little Tiger Woods winning the Tour Championship Open this past Sunday, kind of stealing some of the headlines. His first Tour victory in 5 years. So I got to be honest, I've never been the biggest hockey guy on the face of the planet, but I've grown up with the Tiger Woods aura around me. Yeah, definitely. I remember when he broke in coming from the amateur circuit. 1996. I definitely remember the beginning of his legacy. So it was nice to see him actually make the return after the fall from grace that we've kind of seen play out over the last 5 years. So it was definitely good to see him come back to the top. So we got that to talk about. Like I said, we got some basketball to talk about too. We had media day yesterday and the beginning of training camp and everything. And when Dave comes on, we know that Dave is a Chicago's Bulls fan, so I am probably going to ask his opinion on everything that's been going on in Minnesota, because we talked about Minnesota in the last year, and he calls them the Timber Bulls. So we're definitely going to get into the whole Jimmy Butler situation. It does not look like he's ever going to play with the team again. At least that's according to everything that's coming out of his camp. The owner is trying to actively trade him. Tom Thibodeau does not want to trade him. So you see a little bit of a clash between the front office and the ownership. And it's pretty weird. Without really knowing all of the specifics, it seems like a rift formed between him and Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns at some point last season. And it seems like it's a pretty irreparable rift there, to the point where he doesn't want to be with the team anymore. So we have that. But before we get to all that, and before Dave comes on, we're going to do like we do every week at this time. I am going to attempt to get through the live scoreboard, baseball games that are happening now. And this might be the last time this season that we get a live baseball scoreboard, because this is, of course, the last week in the baseball season. And you got the postseason starting next week, so we'll probably get into that when the time comes. But where we are right now, heading into the bottom of the 4th inning, the New York Mets, who will finish the season under 500, unfortunately, which we kind of knew was going to happen, but it still pisses me off that it's going to happen. Mets are up 2-0 over the Atlanta Braves. Top of the 6th inning, Kansas City Royals are up 3-2 over the Cincinnati Reds. Bottom of the 6th inning, and the Yankees are up 8-2 over the Tampa Bay Rays. Good for them. Top of the 7th inning, Washington Nationals are up 3-1 over the Miami Marlins. Top of the 6th inning, the Houston Astros are up 4-1 over the Toronto Blue Jays, and they have 2 men on with 2 outs. And looks like I'm not going to get through that, because we do have Dave Hastings on the line. Dave, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Mike. Doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. So this is how I want to start things off. Obviously, we got a lot of football to get to, but let's talk about the Timber Bulls for a moment here. The Minnesota Timber Bulls, of course, because they have Luau Bang, Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, and Jimmy Butler. But wait a minute, because apparently Butler is trying to force his way out of Minnesota. The owner wants to get a quick trade done, and Tom Thibodeau is trying to put the kibosh on that. You know, there are reports that apparently the owner kind of leaned on him a little bit. He may be more willing to do it, but apparently ESPN is reporting that Butler made it pretty clear to Thibodeau that he wants out. Thibodeau is trying to talk him down from that. What do you make of this whole thing?
I mean, it's kind of weird to me to say this statement, but it kind of feels like Jimmy Butler is getting diva-ish. I don't know. The way he's kind of been the last couple of years kind of shocks me. Not to the level I was shocked by Kawhi, but definitely shocked. I mean, but really, look, the way Minnesota plays and, the way Thibodeau coaches, maybe he's tired of that. Maybe he wants to be on a team where he's the, truly featured star on the team and, main name that's on the team. But outside of that, it really doesn't. It kind of doesn't make much sense to me when you think about the talent that they have on that team. I really feel like they could do things. I
Yeah,
really think they could be competitive in the West. I mean, look, they're not getting past Golden State but I think they're a team where I'd love to see a series between them and the Lakers. Like a 4-5 up, something like that. I could see.
yeah.
So that's kind of disappointing, but I don't know. Like, I like the idea of him going to like a team like some of the teams they're naming for him to go to. I don't know if you have the whole list of them, but like the Nets is the one that just kind of pops for me, and it's like, hey, that'd be pretty freaking awesome, just to have Jimmy Butler playing for a local team. I mean, I'll always be a Bulls fan, but the Nets used to play in Jersey. I mean, I always got a soft spot in my heart for the Nets. So I
Well,
was,
yeah. Well, I know the original list that came out, there were three teams. It looked like, I think it was the Clippers, the Nets, and the Knicks were the teams that he wanted to go to. And I think the Clippers were kind of the front runners on that original list. But ESPN has the Nets and the Clippers with the Heat, all with contracts to unload. And it looks like any deal that is going to happen, Sacramento would have to be involved as type of a facilitator because they have $11 million in cap space and they have expiring contracts in Zach Randolph, Iman Shumpert, and Costa Kofos. So they would kind of have to be involved in order to like absorb some of the larger contracts. And I guess the Timberwolves would want to trade out Gorgui Dieng's contract in any deal to kind of get the cap relief. So that's kind of the list there. But here's the thing. When this whole thing started, when we heard about a rift between Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, the impression I got was that Butler kind of saw these guys with all this talent not really going full out. And now we've reached the point where he wants to go. Do you think that's what started it all? Do you think now it's kind of reached a point where it's more than that?
I mean, I won't lie. That sounds very believable. I mean, Anthony Towns to me is good enough to be an MVP candidate every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Wiggins should be a couple years ahead of where he's at, I guess is the best way for me to break down my opinion on Wiggins. Like he shows those flashes, he's got the ability and you're just kind of waiting for him to get there. And Jimmy Butler is a guy that, was a second or a late first round pick.
No, I think you were right at first. I think he was a second round pick.
No, he got drafted first round. I think it was like 21, 22 overall.
Oh, okay.
But he's a guy that came up, and only really got playing time because of his defensive ability and worked on his offensive ability and turned himself into a max contract player. And, so for him, seeing guys with that kind of talent, I think you always, as a veteran, if you're a guy that actually cares about the success of not just your team, but the players on your team, and Jimmy Butler, I think, is one of those guys. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a good chance that contributed to his wanting to be out of there. The lack of
Mm-hmm.
urgency to become better.
Yeah. 30th overall pick. 30th overall pick there. So, yeah. No, I always saw that as a cause, but I think if it's come to the point where it's like this, and you look at the way the Timberwolves have been, like even before Butler got there, you got those two guys, all-world talents, and they seemingly couldn't get out of their own way for a lot of the time. Even last year, you have this star-studded, in my opinion, starting lineup, and I mean, we always kind of knew they'd be hovering around that third or fourth seed. But even with that, I mean, if those two guys were able to take the next step, there's really no reason why they couldn't have competed for the third or even as high as the second seed.
Yeah, they have the talent. I mean, like I said, a guy that's literally competing for MVP on a year in and year out basis. I mean, there's no question in my mind he has that kind of talent, and you've seen it. It's just he doesn't bring it every single night, and that's disappointing to say the least. If there's any other way to put it, that's disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's still in the part of his career where he's more concerned about statistics as opposed to helping the team win. And that problem, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that Butler probably called out, and they probably had a problem with it. But for it to reach the point where he wants out because he knows he's not going to receive. I mean, if he knows he's not going to resign after next season, that's one thing. But for him to want out without even having played a game this season, I think it's gone a little deeper than that, truthfully. But yeah, so you have that. Do you have anything that you'd like to talk about basketball-wise before we move on to the NFL? Because I know we had media day yesterday. You got the start of training camps coming on now.
Well, I mean, I think there's one thing I can definitely ask you as being a Knicks fan, and that's really kind of the question of how do you feel they should handle the Porzingis, comeback from the injury? Because the year mark is until January 31st, I believe. So it's like right, a couple of weeks before the All-Star break for the year mark. Do you feel like they should, try to get him back, or do you think it's something where, you accept the rough year that's going to happen, even probably if he plays, and make sure that he's 100%?
Well, it's funny because you got two guys who are going to go through this year. You got Porzingis who's going to go through it with the Knicks, in what, in my opinion, is not exactly a high pressure situation because I don't think anybody really expects the Knicks to contend this year. And then you have DeMarcus Cousins in basically the same position, only with the Warriors. And obviously, he's not going to have that much pressure on him anyway because he's got 4 All-Stars with him, so they ain't going to need to rush him back anyway. But it's just interesting that you have both ends of the spectrum on that. I mean, if they're out of it come January, there is no need to rush him back. So they can conceivably wait the whole year if they really want to. I think a lot of it is going to depend on what the doctors say and how he feels, obviously, because if he's in any sort of pain, they're not even going to try to rush him back. But personally, I do think like game rust and all that stuff is a factor, and I don't think they would want him to come into the next season cold, if possible. So I think if they have a chance to bring him back, if they have a chance to bring him back in like late February or March, even if they can only get like a couple weeks out of him, I wouldn't mind to at least begin the process of getting him back into game shape. Now, obviously, this is if he gets like practice time and all that stuff, and you're not talking about playing him more than like 20 minutes a night, if that. But I'd like to see them bring him back for at least the last couple weeks of the season. But if they think he's not ready and not prepared, I'm perfectly fine with them waiting the whole season.
Yeah, I don't think with a guy his size you rush it. You have to take your time with him. You have to let him be healthy, and even if that means actually having to miss the entire season, it's worth doing. This is a guy that even with the new regime in New York, everybody agrees is somebody to be built around. So you can't take it lightly. You have to be patient with it. You have to accept that maybe you don't get to have him play this year, but at least going into the training camp next year, he's going to be 100% good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you hear like obviously it was with the old regime, but you still hear a lot of talks about the possible rift between him and the front office. You really don't want to do anything that is going to piss him off and make him not want to stay with you long term. So, I mean, if he wants to come back, all right, fine, you kind of have to acquiesce a little bit, but you got to look for the future here too, man. It makes no sense bringing him back early just to see him re-injure himself.
Wouldn't that be an all-time Knicks move, though?
Yes, it would. I can agree with you on that part. Absolutely. Unfortunately, but yeah. All right. So with that, let's move to football here. Now, normally I ask you for your thoughts on the weekend, but I want to start off with the thoughts on the weekend. So apparently, you're not allowed to sack the quarterback at all, really. Apparently, we're just going to start having two-hand touch on the quarterback.
Yeah, it's something else with this rule. They got to figure it out. They got to make some type of adjustment to it because it truly is absurd, asinine. You know, the list of words to describe it can kind of go on and on and on. But it's there's nothing positive to say about it. I understand that you don't want to lose quarterbacks. They are the biggest money player on the field, no matter who guys or who sells the most jerseys. Like, they're the guys that really bring fans into the crowd or into the stands because you want to see points scored. It's fantasy. You want to see passing touchdowns and receiving yards and passing yards, and you want to see all of that. So, you know, it's one of those things that you really kind of can understand why they wanted to put something like this in place, but you're really taking away from what is considered football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good. Clay Matthews has been screwed over. You had the poor guy down in Miami who tore his ACL. You know, you have the horrible call in the Seahawks Cowboys game at the beginning of the game. You had, I think, Kerrigan got called for one on Rodgers, and it's not consistent either. So there's so many holes with this, and you know, I know Erich's not here, but like Erich would always say, like, the NFL is getting too big, and they're getting so concerned with outside opinions and all of that they're getting in their own way by making these rule changes and making these adjustments to the game. Like, I get it, player safety, we all get it, but why would you have two different teams have to play 3 games in the first 11 days of the regular season? If you're worried about player safety, you shouldn't do something like that. It's their first couple games. They're not ready for that type of, you know, play yet. Like, their bodies have to adjusted to it. So you want to talk about player safety? Don't do something like that. Back to where you only did Thursday games from Thanksgiving on. But it's all about money when it's all said and done, and that's the major underlying problem with the NFL. They've gotten too big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Clay Matthews hit. Even if you're just looking at the one from this week, he did nothing wrong on that. But it's weird. I get the idea that this basically all stems from the hit on Aaron Rodgers last week last year that led to the broken collarbone and him basically missing the remainder of the season. So I get that even a clean hit like the one Matthews had this past week could wind up causing an injury. But the fact is, I mean, and Erich has said this many times, football is a violent game. You sign up for the game, you know there's a possibility you're getting hurt at the drop of a dime. And you mentioned the kid from the Dolphins, William Hayes, who gets put on IR because he tries to stop himself from putting too much weight on the quarterback when he hits him and winds up tearing his ACL. And Richard Sherman came out and said they only care about the quarterback, they don't care about the defensive players. And, you know, I get that the quarterbacks are the stars. They're the ones who lead the team and everything. But you can't have a league where you're valuing at least it's weird. I want to say you can't have a league where you value one position over the rest. But then you look at the dollar amounts, and that's basically what the NFL was built on. valuing one position over the rest. But if you do that, you're just going to wind up cutting off your nose to spite your face, because then it just leads to a whole slippery slope not even worth going down. And that's why the quality of play has really gone down over the years too, because the injuries to the star defensive players lead lesser players who don't belong on the field in a game, and the quality just goes to shit, for lack of a better word. So I don't know. I had seen something on ESPN earlier that I can't find right now, that the NFL is concerned about the number of penalties on these type of things. And I heard Mike Pereira on WFAN yesterday, basically at a loss for words, talking about how the NFL has lost credibility with this whole thing. And it's true, but let's be honest, the NFL, all they do is lose credibility in every issue possible, because they are constantly playing from behind the eight ball in the most reactionary league on the planet, and they're always trying to play catch up on these things. They can never get in front of anything. Something like this, you could say you didn't see this coming, but if you didn't see this coming, you don't know the sport you're supposed to be an expert
Well, and that's the thing. You even had Troy Aikman, one of your most famous broadcasters.
on. Oh, I saw this. Yes,
on the Seahawks Cowboys game, which was the largest broadcasted game that the NFL had for their 4:30 slot. And even he said, "I'm done talking about this. This is just ridiculous."
yeah.
That is literally a slap in the face to the NFL, but yet so true, because it is literally, this is worse than the catch rule. Because on the catch rule, you could sit there and you'd watch it and you'd be like, all right, I guess I could see how they said that wasn't a catch, or I guess I could see how they said that was a catch. There was that small part of you that kind of partially, slightly, maybe just a little bit could see how the refs made that call the way they made that call. But this is something that you watch and you just literally are like, what else are they supposed to do? I mean, you might as well make it, hey, get two hands on the quarterback and it's a sack. Or put, flags all over the quarterback's body, and if they can rip one off, it'll be a sack. Like, I don't know what, like, it's unbelievable. Like, what do you expect these guys to do? They're running full speed, giving 100% effort, and on the rare occasion that they actually get to finally hit the quarterback, because it's not like quarterbacks are getting hit 30 times a game. These guys are going after them 30, 40, 50 times a game. So that rare occasion they actually get there, and you're telling them, we need you to not put all your body weight on them, not drive them into the ground, not slap them in the head, not do anything other than give them a perfect hit. And on the way down, make sure you do not bring your body weight onto them. You have to avoid doing. Like, literally, think about that. That is mind-blowing that you would expect them to do that much at such a fast-paced game.
Yeah, it's like all right, you played your whole career, you want to sack the quarterback. You've never sacked the quarterback before. Now when you sack the quarterback, you can't just go down with the quarterback. In essence, you have to try to do a complete 180 spin and land on your back with the quarterback on your stomach so you can protect the quarterback.
They'd probably still penalize them for whipping the quarterback around.
Oh, in my head, I'm going, man, that's terrible. You're probably right. You're probably right on that. Yeah. So, another no-win situation that the NFL has only themselves to blame for. All right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, what else stuck out to you this weekend?
Oh, man. I mean, do we want to dive into the Cowboys game since it's just me and you, or
do we have to?
I mean, look, man, it's very simple to me. Offensively, they are a mess. Dak Prescott needs to be running the ball. He had his first carry halfway through the fourth quarter. Zeke, through 3 games, still has not once had the ball for 20 times or more in a game. Not once has he had 20 touches or more.
Well, in all fairness on that point, he did get 127 rushing yards.
That's not the point. If he had another 4 or 5 touches, what does that do for him?
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's my point. He needs to get the ball more. They don't have enough playmakers. They don't throw the ball down the field. They should be running RPO until they're literally nauseated by it. It makes absolutely no sense. You have that kind of team, and that's the kind of offense you should run. And when you ran it against the Giants the week before, you had a very great not great, a very good offensive performance. But teams literally on 3rd and 7 are lining up and don't have a single player beyond the chains. They're not even playing they're not even worried about a deep ball. And even if you're not going to complete them, you still have to throw them. Yeah. So it's the problems are on offense. Defensively, look, Sean Lee went down. They still played pretty well. It makes that Van Der Esch pick look a lot smarter, which we all kind of understood why they took the kid anyway. So we obviously have to see how he's able to play. But Jalen Smith looks really, really good and looks like he was well worth the redshirt year, kind of based off if we're able to sign him or not after his rookie contract. But we'll figure that part out when we get there. But, I mean, to me, it's one of those things where, like, the problem with this team is the offense, and they're doing nothing to change the offense. And the answers to me are so obvious, and I'm not even any professional. I've never even played football. All I know about football is Madden. That's it.
Yeah.
So, not like I'm a professional at this stuff. I'm not going to act like I am.
Yeah.
But when it's all said and done, the issues with this offense are kind of obvious on how to solve them, and they don't make the adjustment. And I don't know if it's Linehan, if it's Garrett, if it's Prescott. I don't know who to blame, but all I know is that the answers are pretty simple, and they won't just do them. And I don't understand it, and they need to stop worrying about Prescott running the ball. It makes absolutely no sense. It's something to be concerned about. I get it. You're not going to run them like Cam 15 times a game, but 6, 10 carries, run the RPO 15, 20 times. Like it's kind of obvious to me. I don't get it. Sorry. It's been driving me nuts, and I've looked forward to this all freaking week. I'm like, this is nonsense.
Yeah. Well, listen, I still say the problem with the offense is no Travis Frederick. To me, I mean, I've said this just about every week. That's the biggest loss on the offensive side of the football. You can say what you want about Des Bryant. You can say what you want about Jason Witten. Travis Fredericks. And to me, that offensive line shows how much they miss Travis Fredericks. I mean, you could say they weren't terrible. Prescott got sacked 5 times in this game. 5 times. I mean, I think it's part of what you're talking about in terms of they don't take downfield shots. He doesn't have enough time to really set himself to be able to look downfield. I mean, we know he doesn't have a great arm to begin with. But I just think the presence of Fredericks on that offensive line changes the whole complexion of it. I think you put him back on there, you see him go downfield a little bit more. And also, I mean, you didn't have the quarterbacks on the Seahawks side talking smack like Landon Collins did the week before. So you really have no incentive for Prescott to even try to air it out to shut the team up. So I don't know. I just think Fredericks is the biggest loss on the offense. And until he's able to get back, or until someone like Mooney is able to start playing up to that level, which realistically, I don't think he's a terrible center, but he's no Travis Frederick. Or until Lel Collins is finally able to justify why everybody thought he was a first-round talent. Because right now, I don't see it. He's just another guy to me as far as I'm concerned. He's no Zach Martin. He's no Tyron Smith. He's just another guy, in my opinion. And until he finally shows that, the offensive line is going to continue to be the problem, at least in my opinion.
And I see what you're saying, but the offensive line really isn't the problem. Dak through 3 weeks has averaged more time in the pocket than any other quarterback in the league. He's holding on to the ball too long. They're running the same vanilla offense where they run the naked bootleg, and you're sitting here and you know it's coming. The defense knows it's coming, so the linebacker doesn't go after the tight end. He crashes right after Dak, and the tight end's already covered, so his first read's gone, and he has to take the hit. It's their offense is so vanilla and predictable. It's not even funny. Their offensive line, have they played great? No. Are they what they were 2 years ago? No. Are they what they were in 2016 or 2014? No. But they haven't played horribly. They haven't played even bad. They've just played average, and since our standards are so high, it's disappointing. I agree. Frederick being down hurts. Looney is no Frederick. We all know that. But the guys played good football. Zach Martin, the rookie left guard, Williams, he's starting to look better the last 2 weeks compared to the first 2 weeks. He'll continue to get better. Collins, completely with you. He's turning into nothing more than an average right tackle. He's not a guy worth a big contract. He's not a guy that, would probably be a backup on most teams, but he's nothing more than an average right tackle that against a really good defensive end is going to get dominated and need help. But Dak needs to throw the ball. He needs to make his reads and let it rip. And to me, the offense is just too simple that it's covered so easily that he just has nowhere to go with the ball. I watched the replay of one of the plays where he took a sack, and it was 3rd and 7, or I'm sorry, 3rd and 9, and you had the 4 wide receivers set, 2 on each side. The wide receivers on the outside didn't even run past the line of scrimmage, and the 2 inside receivers ran curl routes to the chains. And you literally just saw Seattle sit on it. Nobody ran deep. Nobody was even worried about it. Like, their issues are it's so much more related to play calling and execution to me than it has anything to do with the actual personnel on the field. They have enough talent, in my opinion, to win these games. If you really look at each game they've lost so far, you look at just a couple plays and a couple moments where they just didn't step up when they needed to step up.
Well, I'll say this. I don't really know if the solution is this simple, but you look at what happened a couple weeks ago during the Giant game, where Chris Richard, I think that's the name, Chris Richard, he winds up taking over the defensive play calling, and he threw a bunch of different looks at the Giants that they had never really seen before, and they were able to basically run over the Giants in that game. If they could do something like that on the offensive side of the ball, it probably would help, because I totally get what you're saying about the vanilla play calling. I mean, we've been saying it since last season that the offense never really makes the adjustments they need to. You never really see any different looks. Like, this is going back to last season when they had Fredericks, Bryant, and Whit. So.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And Garrett says because he was asked numerous times already this week, and he says that he's 100% behind Linehan. We're not even going down that road. It's not even something we'll consider. Jerry Jones, I'm happy with the coaching staff. I'm happy with this roster. And look, I have not given up on Jason Garrett. I just haven't, because when it's really all said and done, if you look at his track record, he's actually been a very consistent coach. But unless he's willing to make a change with his offensive coordinator, then Dallas is going to be a 500 team, because that defense is going to win them some games. That defense is a good defense. And what a lot of people forget is they're 3rd or 4th in the league through 3 weeks in sacks, and David Irving still hasn't played a game. That man had 9.5 sacks through 13 games last year.
That's a good point. I'll tell you this. We've talked about the continuity amongst the Cowboys coaching staff over the last couple of years. We've talked about it. We've lauded over it quite a bit. I think at this point, is it fair to say that continuity has kind of bred a little bit of complacency, at least in the offensive play calling?
I completely would say that. I mean, Garrett he has to. That's one of the things you have to be willing to do as a coach is understand that your players are not responding to the offense that they're running. They're not succeeding in it. And you need to bring in somebody that's going to utilize the talents of the players you have, and that includes letting Dak run. I said it to somebody earlier today. Dallas should use Dak the way Carolina uses Cam, but not as consistently.
Yeah.
I don't think he should run it 15, 20 times a game, but like I said before, 6 to 10, make it a threat, make it something where a defensive lineman or a linebacker can't just crash and go right after Zeke. Make it so that you have to play that option. They have the offensive line to run an RPO. You have run blocking on one side, pass blocking on the other. They have the offensive line for that. I that's what pisses me off the most. Like I said, I don't get it because to me it is a simple solution that would make a world of difference, and they just don't make the adjustment.
Well, I mean, to definitely go to your point, with the way they use Cam, his running kind of hides some of his deficiencies as a signal caller and all that stuff. So to do that, we know the deficiencies Dak has as a quarterback. If they let him do that, it definitely would mask some of them. So I definitely see your point on that. Let's move on to some of the other games in the NFL. So Pat Mahomes just keeps on rolling. Another game, 3 more touchdowns. And then on the San Francisco side of the ball, the worst thing possible this season that could happen to him has happened. And Jimmy Garoppolo goes down in the fourth quarter, non-contact injury, torn ACL, out for the season. What can you say about that?
It might be the first time in my life I felt bad for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that.
But look, the non-contact part is what makes me nervous. Anytime a guy's knee goes out and it's non-contact, that's a very, very scary, scary injury. And it's something that, you know, is not guaranteed to come back from a full recovery like it happens when a guy, you know, tears his ACL due to a hit. I don't know why it's different. I don't know, but every time I've seen it, I mean, Victor Cruz is one of the most recent guys I've seen. Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, so it's one of those things that if I'm a Niners fan, I'm really nervous, and I say you take as long as you need to. I don't care. We gave him the long contract, like we have to rock with this. Like, take your time, let him heal, let him, even if he misses half of next season, even if they go the Colts route and let him miss the entire season. I don't care. You have to be smart with this one because the non-contact injuries for the ACL are the worst, and that really sucks. But
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, that man is a man among boys. It is crazy what he's doing. The offense is a perfect fit for the way he's able to play. I think having a guy like Kelsey really helps him because he really knows he has a true, safety blanket. The run game, I mean, if their defense was just a couple years younger, if we go back to their 2014, 2013 defense with this offense, I mean, they probably go 14-2. I mean, they have that. But at the same time, let me just say this. Last year, Kansas City started hot, 5-0. Alex Smith tore the NFL apart, and then they lost 6 in a row. So I'm not going to get way too high on Kansas City, but right now that is a scary, scary offense with loads of potential.
Yeah, and we're going to let someone in on the conversation because Erich Tressler has joined the room here. Erich, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good to have you. Good to have you on, man. So we're talking the Chiefs-Niners game. Any thoughts from you on that game?
Jimmy G blows out his knee and Kansas City rolls. I mean, their offense is the hottest offense in the league right now. Mahomes looks like he can really bomb the ball, and yeah, I mean, they look good. I think Kansas City is going to be a tough team to beat this year.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think at this time, do you have any comments on Week 3 NFL action you'd like to bring up, Erich?
The Giants' offensive line, they finally got the hint somehow. The gods finally spoke, and they benched Eric Flowers. And then, oh my God, like they weren't terrible, and Eli can make throws again. Like it was magical. I don't know how it happened. I don't know who got to who, but they finally did it, and I couldn't be happier. And you saw the results on the field. They ended up having a pretty good game, and other than that, Tom Brady and the Patriots just don't look right this year. I think weird stories are coming out that the reason Gronk was considering retirement is because he was going to get traded to Detroit. Tom Brady contemplating retirement the last couple off seasons. Like something's just not right there in New England. Not sure what it is, but I feel like it could be the start of the end. And I'm surprised with a 3-0 start by the Miami Dolphins. Throw that in there as well.
Yeah, Miami Dolphins 3-0. I never thought I'd see that. Yeah, that's true. Especially Oakland looked like they had.
And then the biggest upset of the week. How do I not mention this? I mean, Minnesota getting the crap kicked out of them by Buffalo. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, it was devastating to anybody in a survivor pool. I mean, it really was like kick in the crotch. I don't know what happened to them, but they've fallen off a cliff apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, man. Josh Allen looking pretty good in, I guess, his second NFL start. So good for him. Dave,
yeah, those are really great points. I mean, Miami off to a 3-0 start. Tannehill back starting form at quarterback. We mentioned it before, the poor guy that tore his ACL on the sack. But, I mean, that 3-0 is unbelievably surprising, but good for them. I mean, why not? And watching – last time New England was 2 games back in the AFC East lead through 3 games was something like 2003. So, like Erich said, could be maybe this is the year where they finally, start their downturn and things change. Maybe it's not, but it is time for a different reigning champion in the AFC. I mean, I think we're all getting kind of tired of New England, but Brady's a monster, so I'll always respect watching him play. But yeah, that's that Minnesota game. It really makes me wish I put like $100 on Buffalo to win. Man, would that been a killing?
And can we all agree on one thing? The best thing on Sunday of it all has to be Tiger Woods. I don't care what football you were watching on Sunday. Everybody heard about Tiger Woods.
Oh yeah,
he played great, man. He really did. It was
all
nice.
weekend.
Yeah, I actually started off the show saying I kind of figured if you were on, we were going to wind up talking something Tiger Woods. I'll tell you this, man. I've never been the biggest golf guy on the face of the planet, but I feel like I've kind of seen since the beginning with Tiger, because I remember '96 when he made the jump from amateur to the pros. Good for him. Good for him. I'm happy to see him get back in the winner's circle after 5 years.
He's just something special. Anybody that thinks that he doesn't have an impact on his opponents, they're out of their freaking mind. Even if it's not Tiger specifically, the crowds that form to watch him play is something no other player on that in the PGA has ever experienced. And I think it was just saw more proof of it this Sunday. I mean, what he's able to do and what the kind of crowd he draws, just it's something that no other player can do. And to say he doesn't have an impact on his opponents, people are crazy to think that, even if it may not be specifically him directly, that the crowds that form around him definitely have to have an impact. Those guys aren't used to playing around things like that.
Yeah. All right. I want to bring up 2 other things, and then we'll head to picks. So we started off the week, at least the week of football. We all picked Cleveland to beat the Jets on Thursday night. And lo and behold, Tyrod Taylor gets injured in the second quarter. Baker Mayfield comes in, winds up going for 201 yards. and leads an improbable comeback, and the Cleveland Browns get their first win in almost 2 years over the New York Jets by a score of 21-17. How about that? Dave, you want to start off?
Yeah, I mean that game was maybe one of the most I'm into this games on a Thursday night ever. Mayfield looked good, but at the same time, the Jets probably didn't have any game plan for him. So you definitely take advantage of that. I think it was fun, the little 2-point conversion they did where they threw him the ball. But all in all, look, man, Cleveland deserved the win. The Bud Light fridges got unlocked. So I thought that was awesome. And, to me personally, I think if you lived in Cleveland, Ohio, every company should have gave their employees the day off and let them enjoy it. That was great. And the Jets, look, man, they're a young team. They're having growing pains, and it is what it is. But if I'm the Jets, I accept it. Outside all the penalties, that's where the real problem is. You can't be having all the penalties that the Jets have.
What about and Eric, I'll let you start with this one. Isaiah Crowell scores a touchdown early in the game, and he's wiping his butt with the football. What is that?
No, I gotta be honest. I don't want to talk about that at all. That's just terrible. That's classless, and I really don't want to talk about it. I'd rather talk about Cleveland winning because that's a bigger story and bigger Mayfield.
Go ahead, then. Go ahead.
Story. And the fact that they've already named him starter for next week, it says a lot too, because it shows that they're gonna put their faith in him, and I think that that's a smart move. I think it was a good win, although I don't necessarily know if I agree with Dave that a Jets-Browns game is like one of the most exciting Thursday night games I've seen. But it was exciting, I guess, in the fact that at least we got to see Baker Mayfield for the first time. And, it just goes to what I always thought about the kid is that he's a winner. He's going to come in and he's going to do what he's got to do to help his team win. And I think he's going to be good. I think I think Jarvis Landry is going to see an increase. You're going to see more usage in him. I think it's just going to make them an overall better football team. I think Tyrod Taylor was the more stable quarterback, more veteran quarterback, but you don't draft a guy first overall to have him ride the bench for very long. So I agree with now. Let's get him in there. Let him play the rest of the season. He's going to hit growing pains. Not every game is going to be a great one. I mean, he didn't even throw a touchdown pass, I don't think, against the Jets. He racked up like 219 yards. He had a decent day, but it wasn't anything outlandish, and they ended up winning. And that's the more important thing to Cleveland right now is getting some wins. And I think that they're going to win a couple games this year. I think they're a better team than people are giving them credit for. I don't think they're a playoff team by any means. I don't think they're a very good team. I think they have a lot of room to grow, but I think that they are going to win a few games this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Hello.
Okay. Well, I tell you, I think the interesting thing to me, looking across the NFL right now, you got Baker Mayfield starting quarterback next week. Then you got Josh Allen starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. You have Sam Darnold
as you are.
Starting quarterback for for the New York Jets. And now you also have Josh Rosen named starting quarterback for next week for the Arizona Cardinals. So you got all four of the first-round quarterbacks starting in the NFL. I'm leaving out Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens, obviously. Of these four, who do we think winds up having the most impact for the rest of the season? And, Eric, I'll start with you.
Give me the four again. I'm sorry.
Baker Mayfield.
The four names.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, Josh Allen in Buffalo, Josh Rosen in Arizona, and Sam Darnold with the Jets.
I think that Mayfield is going to have the biggest impact.
Mayfield? All right.
Yep.
Okay. Dave?
I'm going with Eric. I actually think it's Mayfield as well, just because every win that he would be able to get this year would have such a bigger meaning and impact on the franchise than any of the other players could outside of maybe Darnold. But really, Mayfield, I mean, even the Jets at least have made the playoffs a couple times in the past couple of years, and have had 8-win seasons and things like that. But I mean, for the Browns, every single win that he gets is going to mean that much more for that team.
Well, see, it's interesting. I see you guys' points on that one. I think Allen has a chance to do basically the same thing with Buffalo because if you think about it, they really haven't had that franchise quarterback. I mean, they've had a couple little hints at possible guys who could be the guy, but they've really been searching for their franchise quarterback almost as long as Cleveland has since Jim Kelly, if you think about it. So while I'm probably going to agree with you guys, I'd say Allen probably comes the closest, though, especially when you consider what he did on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, what he did on Sunday to me was more of Minnesota not taking them seriously enough, and they got slapped around.
Well, see, I also wonder because I don't know if you guys heard about the whole Everson Griffin thing that happened. I wonder how much that whole off-field drama really bled into the locker room because if you guys have a chance to read the whole thing on ESPN, they basically sent him home needing I guess it was time needed for like mental health or something, and there was a whole thing. There was an incident in the hotel room, and he may or may not have broken into a teammate's apartment, and it was just this whole thing. And I just wonder how much of an impact that had on the rest of the team.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about it, so I can't say I really know.
Well, they kept it quiet, but like you heard about it.
I heard about it, but again, I mean, maybe it played in, but I agree more with Dave's thought of I don't think they took Buffalo seriously. I thought they thought, oh, Josh Allen in his first start, we got a good defense. We're not worried, blah, 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 and they kind of laughed this week off. I do think that drama in the locker room, anytime you have it, hurts a team. I think last year it killed the Giants in their locker room. Between all the turmoil with the coach and Eli and everything else, I think it just dragged the team down. So I could see that happening here a little bit, but I tend to think that it was more of them just not being ready and just taking them too lightly.
Yeah. You guys could be right. I think that played into it, but I can see you guys' point on that. All right, last question, and then we're going to get into picks here. Because going back to the San Francisco thing, here's a devil's advocate. And actually, Eric, I want your feelings on something too, but first, okay. So they need a quarterback right now. I know it'll never happen. But don't you think it would make sense right now when you consider the fact that they don't have a quarterback, they're bringing in all these veteran quarterbacks who can't really impact the game. They went with freaking C.J. Beathard in the second half. Wouldn't this be the perfect opportunity for Colin Kaepernick to come back to the NFL? Alan, either one. Go ahead.
No. Oh, my God. The thought of that makes me want to vomit.
Why does that make you want to vomit? That's horrible.
Because you're bringing cancer back into the league. You're bringing a negative storyline. It is nothing positive going to happen out of that.
No,
NFL
that I'm going to disagree with.
Stay away. It is not a comeback story. It is not a redemption story.
It would be the perfect redemption story, actually.
He doesn't care. He's got money now. Nike's paying him. He doesn't need this. He's bigger without football. He's bigger because he's not playing football anymore. He has actively ruined his chances with teams to sign there. Between incidents with himself and with his girlfriend, which we've talked about all. He hurts his own chances to get. He hurts his own chances to get signed. This is not a redemption story. This is just utter absurdity. And no, I don't agree with it. There are plenty of other able-bodied quarterbacks ready to play.
They're all terrible. Everyone. I don't have the list in front of me. But
Colin Kaepernick's terrible. He's been out of the league for years, and when he was in the league, he wasn't very good. He hasn't been any good since 2012. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to bring in that guy, pay him any kind of money, even if it's just a veteran minimum, I think you're out of your mind. I don't think you're going to get any kind of production out of him.
All right.
He's got to come into a new system, learn a new playbook. Already 3 weeks into the season, this isn't like he had an entire offseason to plan and train for. I think it's an awful idea from start to finish.
All right.
Why would you do that? Why? Give me a positive of doing it.
Hang on. I think first of all, you bring up some valid points. Everything you said about everything he's done to keep himself out of the NFL, and yes, you were the only one on that story about him and his girlfriend screwing up with the chance with him signing with the Ravens last year. Yes, I give you all of that. But I think under the right circumstances, and he would have to do some repentance. He wouldn't be able to come back in and just, hunky-dory, everything's fine. He would have to do some sort of statement apologizing for a lot of the nonsense he's done. But I think on some level, if both sides were willing to meet some sort of halfway there, I think it could be a positive story, him coming back in. I don't necessarily disagree with the points you made, though. Dave, what would you like to say?
Though I won't disagree with the fact that it could be a positive story, I'm more on the side with Erich on the fact that he won't come back, doesn't need to come back, and really has kind of done everything he possibly can to keep himself from having an opportunity to come back.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not really going to argue it. It's just an idea that popped into my head because I'm sorry. The names that they spouted off in terms of getting tryouts with the Niners, I thought were so terrible. That's like, come on, put Kaepernick in.
Give me some of the names. Let me hear them. I'll tell you how terrible they are.
The only one I remember off the top of my head was T.J. Yates. Because I think Phil Savage's name was in there too. Because those two names.
Listen, both of them are starters. Listen, why not bring in the kid Paxton Lynch for a tryout?
That would not be a bad idea, actually. I can give you that. I can give you Paxton Lynch. All right, listen, we got about 8 minutes left here. Erich, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Let's hear you rail against the fact that nobody's allowed to sack the quarterback anymore.
I don't have to rail about it. I mean, the players are doing that enough for me. I mean, do you hear him complain every single game? Poor Clay Matthews. I don't even know if he knows how to play football anymore. He's so confused. It's no wonder there's so many points scored each week in the NFL. Nobody knows how to play defense anymore. I saw the statistic today, actually. 34 roughing the passer penalties through the first 3 weeks of the season, this season. Last year at this same point, 16. 18 more. That's more than double the amount. It's just unnecessary. It hurts the game. It hurts the flow. It hurts everything. You don't know how to tackle anymore. You try, and I mean, some of them are really questionable too. And I get it that you can't go back and do replay for penalties and stuff, but I mean, some of these are just the ref is just being a little too cautious.
I agree.
And they're trying to take the violence out of a violent game, and you can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know why the only things you get vomit induced about are things that I kind of bring up and agree with. But that's another story.
No. That was just because that's just because I mean that topic is such a volatile topic that the NFL is finally, for the first couple of weeks, doesn't have a ton of negative storylines. The only one that's really lingering over the head that is very public is the Le'Veon Bell situation. Other than that, I mean, I think everything else at the NFL has been pretty football-related through the first 3 weeks, and I think that's what they need the headlines to say as to keep people interested. The second it goes back to the political skew, the second it goes back to kneeling, the second it goes back to concussions or any of the other stuff that turn people off, that's when you're going to start to lose those people. The NFL needs to gain those viewers back they've lost over the last couple seasons. And I think the first couple of weeks of the season, they've been able to maybe start trending that way. They need to keep that way going. And that's why the Colin Kaepernick thing to me was like mind-blowing, because I'm like, right now you cannot have that. When the NFL is in its own image repair, they can't go bringing back in projects like that. They're not in a strong enough position right now.
That's fair. All right. Yeah. Anyway, let's do our picks here. So after last week, I'm the only one who went 2-1 last week. Dave and Erich, you both went 1-2. I am 5-3-1 on the season. Dave is 4-4-1 on the season. Erich, you're there at 3-5-1. We got 3 games to pick this week. We got Detroit going into Dallas. We got New Orleans facing the Giants, and we have Minnesota playing the Rams on Thursday night. So I'm going to run through my picks real quick, and then we'll go to you guys. We only got about 5.5 minutes left here. So I'm going to start with the Thursday night game. I'm going to say Minnesota bounces back and beats the Rams here, because I think we all know, in my opinion, that was an uncharacteristic showing from the Vikings. I think the short rest, I think they're going to be very motivated to get back in the winning column here. I love the Rams. I think they're playing very well right now, but I think that Vikings defense is going to be ready to destroy people come Thursday, so I'm going with the Vikings on that. Sorry, Eric, I am picking the Saints over the Giants. I think that offense is playing too well right now to pick against them. And I'm going to stick with my ever-present formula. I'm picking Detroit over the Dallas Cowboys. Dave, let's get your picks.
Who's home in the Minnesota Rams game?
Rams.
Rams.
Rams are home. I'm going to go with the Rams. That offense is something special, and I think defensively with Donald and Sue and just the playmakers they have on that defense, there's something special with Wade Phillips calling it. Mm-hmm. I'm going with the Rams. Giants Saints are going to be interesting because if the Giants are able to pass protect, I mean, Eli put up an 82% completion percentage. To me, that was kind of one of those, shut up to my haters type of games. And though I may never sit here and actually root for the Giants, I have the utmost respect for Eli. And I thought the way he played was great. So it's a matter of if the Giants can pass protect or not. Either way, though, I mean, the Saints are averaging over 30 points a game right now, and the Giants haven't broken 30 points in like 24 or 25 games or something like that. So I'm going to go with the Saints in that one. And then, look, the way Detroit's played the last 2 weeks, the way Dallas's offense has looked, I can't imagine Dallas being able to score enough points to beat Detroit, even with that defense playing pretty damn good for the most part through 3 weeks. That offense keeps them on the field too often, and I can't see them being able to keep up with what Detroit's able to do. So I got to go with Detroit taking that game.
All right. We got about 3 minutes left here. Eric, let's hear your picks real quick.
This is going to be my 3-0 week right here. This is it.
Okay.
We got the Rams. They're going to kick the crap out of whatever's left of the Vikings. I don't know. They got to scrape themselves off the floor after last week's game and try to pick up the pieces, but that's not going to happen. The Rams are a good team, both offensively and defensively. Probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFC. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a Ram win on a short week. With that said, I think that the Saints also, you know what? I want to take the Saints, but I'm going to go with the G-Men. I was leaning Saints all day. I think this is the game where Breeze is going to break the record for most passing yards by a quarterback. I think he can pass Favre and Manning. I think I got to go back and look at those stats again, but I think he's coming up on both of them. I'm going with the Giants. I'm switching it. I'm going Giants.
Okay.
I think off of last week's win, benching Eric Flowers, the right move. I hope after this week they pull out a win and then they cut Flowers and then all is right with the world.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens there. And I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
You're going to go with the
Cowboys over Detroit, and this is going to be the week I go 3-0.
All right, we'll see.
I feel good about it.
We'll see about that. All right. So we've come to the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for listening here, and I want to thank both you guys for being here, especially you, Eric. I know you tried to get here, and I appreciate you being here. Let's hear some final thoughts. Dave Hastings.
I just wanted to shout Eric out, yo. I know your Yankees locked up that wild card spot, and they're on their way to looking like they might lock up the home game for that game. So shout out to your Yankees, my man.
Yeah,
thank you, sir. They're up 8-2 over Tampa right now.
Yeah, I'm not shouting out your Yankees, Eric. Eric Tressler, let's hear your final thoughts.
Well, I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you very much. And also, yeah, just believe it or not, I am more excited for next golf season than I've been for probably any golf season. I'm excited to see Tiger. He is already the favorite at the Masters after his win at the Tour Championship. So I'm looking forward to the Ryder Cup, and also his isn't he playing Mickelson in a $10 million one-on-one match-off?
I think something like that is definitely happening. But we are running out of time here. So once again, thank you both. I am Mike Aglioloro. We will see y'all next week.